the Iran thing, this 12-day war that just happened. It seems like we got out of there so quick because they were threatening to do something with that little strait there. They were threatening to mine it or something like that, and we were terrified they were going to do that.
Right.
Do you know the ins and outs of how that works?
Yeah, it's the Straits of Hormuz. It's the little choke point at the bottom of the Persian Gulf. Mm-hmm. I believe it's about 15, 16 miles wide, and all the tankers from Saudi Arabia, from Iraq, from Iran, they all have to go through there. I actually have a different theory of what happened in Iran with the Americans bombing the nuclear sites. Mm-hmm. My next book, by the way, it's coming out, is about the Iranian Revolution.
Right.
So I've been really kind of focused on Iran lately.
King of Kings.
King of Kings. Yeah. This is coming out in a few weeks, but. I've talked to a few people inside Iran who are since the American bombing, people who are on the opposition to the regime, and what almost all of them have said was that this is the greatest gift, the American bombing the nuclear sites. This is the greatest gift to the regime that they've ever had, because now they can tar all the opposition with, if you're against us, then you're lackeys of the Americans. So it plays right into the regime's hands. And so one of the kind of conspiracy theories, and Iranians love conspiracy theories.
Oh, do they really?
Oh gosh, yeah, they have conspiracy theories about everything. Yeah.
I know. What is the sentiment of Iranians towards America? Because I know a lot of them are actually like Israel, which is shocking.
Right. Well, there's always been a large Iranian Jewish community that was never kicked out. It's still there. A lot of the prominent Iranian Jews left after when the Shah was overthrown. They're like in Los Angeles and stuff now. Mm-hmm. But they just love conspiracy theories. Well, and also the Shah was always very close to Israel. And part of that, they're not Arabs, Iranians. They see themselves as apart from the Arab world. And they're also Shia Muslims, which is different from all the Sunni Muslims that kind of control all the other Middle East. So they've always seen themselves as apart. They actually get offended if people think that they're Arabs. They're very proud of the fact that they're not. So there is this kind of natural affinity that they've often have with Israel. But the conspiracy theory is that, or one of the conspiracy theories is that the regime actually, they had a chance to kind of cut a deal with Israel when Israel was bombing them. And they were asked to come to the negotiating table, and they resisted. And then the Americans bombed the nuclear sites. And the conspiracy theory is that that's exactly what they wanted to happen. They knew that they were never going to be able to develop a nuclear weapon, that they'll never be able to get away with it with the West.
Who knew?
The regime, the Iranian regime. So we'll sacrifice our nuclear program. But in return, now we have America bombing us, killing civilians, and that's a way to rally the country around the flag, which has happened, and to gut our domestic opposition, because now we can say, oh, you're in bed with the Americans. You're supporters of the people who attacked our own country. So the Iranian opposition people I've talked to in the last 2 weeks, they're really despondent over what happened, and they feel that it set the move against the regime back at least 5-10 years.
Did you see that interview that the president of Iran did with Tucker Carlson?
No, I didn't. I was probably in Turkey when
it was like a 30-minute interview.
Huh.
And it seemed like his sentiment was like, I don't want to fight.
Right.
It seemed like we don't harbor, like, of course, our slogan is death to America, but everyone needs a slogan.
Right.
Like, we don't want to fight you guys.
Right.
Netanyahu's been trying to get you guys to bomb us since the early 90s.
Right. Right. And I think it's true. And I've never bought into this idea that the Iranians could develop a nuclear weapon and somehow launch it against Israel or against anybody. Mm-hmm. I know I was embedded with the Israeli army. I know the kind of spy imagery they have of drones and satellites. The Americans have it too. The minute, the instant, a missile was pushed out into a launch pad in Iran, it would be blown up. The idea that they could somehow bring it out, set it up, launch it, and somehow it hit Israel. It's a fantasy.
They wouldn't even be able to get it off the ground.
They wouldn't even be able to get it off the ground.
Oh, wow.
No, they wouldn't even be able to get it to the launch pad. It would just, as it's coming out the tunnel. No, it'd be instantaneous.
Not just drones. I'm sure there's satellites.
Right. Yeah, there's constant satellites and drones. I'll tell you, I was with the IDF, the Israeli Defense Forces. This was 20 years ago in Gaza, and I was in one of their command centers, and they had drones then looking down at Gaza. I distinctly remember them focusing on a guy who was reading a newspaper on a bench. And they said, so we can tell he's reading a newspaper. The American drones can read the newspaper. And that was 20 years ago. Wow. So, the idea that anything can happen in places like Iran without them absolutely knowing is absurd.
And I also read that Israel actually published, I think the Israeli government came out recently and said that 60% of their uranium survived the bombings.
Right.
So what? Right. I mean, I was hearing everything all over the news saying that this was like the most successful bombing campaign ever.
Right.
But 60% survived. Now what?
Yeah. I mean, who knows? Who knows?
What were you doing in Israel 20 years ago with the IDF?
I was reporting. It was actually at a time when, this was even before this was in, God, it was more than 20 years ago. It was 2002. And so it was even before the whole term of embed had come along. Mm-hmm. And I and my photographer I've always worked with, we wanted to go on a mission with the IDF into the West Bank. And so we got clearance to do it. And just by chance, while we were there was a huge suicide bombing that killed about 24 people. And so the Israelis did this big offensive into the West Bank. So we, Paolo Pellegrini and I were embedded with this forward kind of commando group and the Israeli army.
How do you go about doing that? Like getting there and getting them to just bring you in? Sure.
Yeah, it's like just kind of persistence, It's the one thing I remember about that trip in particular is that we got with this commando group and the head of it said, okay, you got to, here's 2 uniforms for you. And I said, man, I'm a journalist. I can't wear an army uniform. And he goes, okay, well, wherever we go, there's a dusk to dawn curfew and we do all our operations at night. And so if you're not in uniform, we're probably going to shoot you. And I went, okay, I'll put on the uniform.
Sold, baby.
Yeah. So,